After the most wild weekend in NBA history when it comes to transactions around the league, Jimmy Butler trade talks is the latest domino that needs to fall. And on today's show, we're going to break down two things surrounding Jimmy and Miami. And we'll start with Jimmy Butler saying no to the Golden State Warriors, and then we'll talk about where Jimmy actually may be traded ahead of Thursday's NBA trade deadline, because after the De'Aaron Fox trade occurred on late Sunday night where he landed in San Antonio, LaVine went to Sacramento, and Expirings went to Chicago, Brian Windhorst dropped what is pretty much a pretty big bomb out there, saying that the Heat's Jimmy Butler has communicated to the Warriors that he's unwilling to sign an extension there, and therefore trade talks to send him to Golden State have ended for now. Now, that does not mean they could not pick up once again if Golden State is fine trading for Jimmy Butler and using him as a rental, but this is an absolute mess. There's just no way to get around this. Jimmy Butler has made life absolutely difficult for the Miami Heat, for everybody involved, and it's very disappointing to see Butler ultimately do this. It was disappointing to see him request a trade from Miami, but a lot of Heat fans understood where he was coming from because he didn't get paid, and the Heat's front office has failed to make moves around him over the past 5 seasons to upgrade this roster to a full extent. But with the way Jimmy Butler has been acting, it's hard to defend his actions any longer. And if you take it back to the beginning of the 2025 calendar year, when Butler indicated to the ESPN sources and basically told the world publicly that he wants to be traded and he wants to be on any team other than the Miami Heat. Remember this report? Yeah, that is the biggest lie in American history. The idea that Jimmy Butler wanted to play for any team other than Miami is a complete farce. He wants to play for one individual team, one specific team. That is the Phoenix Suns. He does not want to play for another team. The Suns have indicated that they would be willing to sign him to a 2-year Supermax extension in the offseason. That is the only reason why Butler wants to go there. It's not about winning, because the Heat are actually in a more prime position to win than the Phoenix Suns are right now, because they're 6th in the East and the Suns are 8th in the West. He wants to go to Phoenix because it's the only team that will pay him, because if he cared about winning truly, the Memphis Grizzlies and Golden State Warriors could each be better options for him, and he has said no to each of those teams. Make sure you do hit that thumbs up icon, because we're providing daily content surrounding the Miami Heat. But also, do you want the Jimmy Butler saga to end? I certainly do. If you're with me, make sure you show me by hitting that thumbs up icon. And I want to go back to this because there have been 3 teams that he has publicly said he would not sign a long-term extension with / doesn't want to go there in a trade. The Golden State Warriors are the latest, but it was already being kind of put out there by back channels and other reporters that the Memphis Grizzlies and Sacramento Kings have received word that Butler would not want to go there. Which, by the way, you could understand Sacramento to a degree, but Memphis is the top 3 team. They're the 3rd seed in the Western Conference. He gets paired up with Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane, Ja Morant, Zach Edey. You're telling me he wouldn't have a chance to really win it all in the West and the NBA Finals? Like, does he not care about winning? I truly don't understand it. And with Golden State, sure, they would have to make up some ground in the standings, but him and Steph would be one of the best duos in the NBA in the Western Conference immediately. I don't understand why he is so hell-bent on going to Phoenix. It truly just shows me it's never been about winning. It's never about finding his joy on the basketball court. Only thing that Jimmy Butler has cared about is getting paid financially. And it sucks because he's lost me. I have been very open about my allegiance to both Miami and Jimmy. I want Jimmy Butler to win a championship. I want it to happen with the Miami Heat, and I originally planned on rooting for Jimmy wherever he ultimately got traded. But for whatever reason, he doesn't want to get dealt to anyone other than Phoenix, so I am no longer under that belief. I was always going to root for Jimmy where he got traded. No longer the case. I truly don't care anymore. No matter where he goes, I will not just automatically be rooting for him. He's lost me. Not rooting for him no more. Can't do it. I mean, the way he's acted here, and any people trying to compare this to the Damian Lillard saga, it is just simply not the same. Damian Lillard wasn't so adamant and hell-bent on getting to Miami, because if that was the case, he would be a member of the Miami Heat. Are you done? Will you root for the Jimmy post-Heat? I no longer will. Let me know your thoughts. Type Y for yes or type N for no. I am typing my N's, but I know a lot of people still like Jimmy and hate the front office. Let me know your thoughts down below. All right, now that we've gotten kind of the Golden State Warriors out of the way for Jimmy Butler and all the news late in there, what now? Jimmy only wants Phoenix. I mean, there's clear. But there might be a small chance that there is one other team to come out of this and maybe trade for Jimmy Butler, and that is the Milwaukee Bucks, because the Bucks have been rumored to have interest in Jimmy. And I will also say that there has been no shooting down of reports that Butler would be against going to the Bucks and playing with Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damian Lillard. And I'll say this when it comes to the Phoenix Suns. You cannot convince me that a Phoenix Suns Jimmy Butler trade will happen. I have been saying it for more than 5 weeks now. There is just no world, in my opinion, where the Suns find a third team that Bradley Beal would waive his no-trade clause for, and the team would want to acquire Bradley Beal. Beal has held all the power this entire time, and it is very obvious that he is not going anywhere. He will not waive his no-trade clause. I think he would waive his no-trade clause to come to Miami, but the Heat don't want Bradley Beal. So unless the Heat change their thought process on acquiring Beal and multiple first-round picks from Phoenix, a Suns trade with Jimmy Butler simply will not happen. I've been adamant about this for 5 weeks, and with 4 days until the deadline, yeah, I'm going to continue to say that because it doesn't look like it's going to happen. And we'll have more to talk about here in just a second. But we are sponsored by PrizePicks, the #1 daily fantasy sports platform in North America. And we are less than a week away from the big game in football. Don't miss out on the last game of the season with PrizePicks, the best place to win cash while watching the big game. PrizePicks is giving away a free pick. All you got to do is pick more than half a yard for Patrick Mahomes. If you pair that up with one more stat projection and get it right, you can win real cash. You can also play daily with football, hockey, basketball, other sports. I've got an entry for tonight in the association. More than Lauri Markkanen, 19.5 points. More than Jordan Poole, 21.5 points. Just another example of how you can play on PrizePicks. They also offer weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. Join me and the millions of others playing PrizePicks on a daily basis. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. One more time, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. And as we get back to talking about Jimmy Butler, Milwaukee may actually be the only shot the Heat has at moving Jimmy Butler before the February 6th trade deadline. Because with Golden State Warriors tabling talks, the Memphis Grizzlies kind of tabling talks, it doesn't feel like there is really that much of a suitor out there for Butler unless the Suns find a third team for Beal, which will not happen in my opinion, or the Milwaukee Bucks swoop in and make a deal straight up. Well, it wouldn't be straight up. It'd be a multi-team deal, but with Miami. And what could a multi-team deal look like for the Bucks and Miami Heat? It's very simple, and I've actually mentioned this trade a couple times on our shows here. They need to get under the second apron so they can aggregate contracts in a deal. They do that by trading Pat Connaughton to the Detroit Pistons. It doesn't have to be Detroit. It could be any other team, if we're going to be honest, because as long as they can just take in enough money and shed out money with Connaughton going out to where they get underneath the second apron. They attach a second pick with Connaughton to Detroit, who takes on that contract, and then that would allow them to aggregate contracts to Miami, where they send Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis, and our old friend DeLon Wright, plus a top 10 2031 first-round pick, and they get Jimmy Butler. They create a big three of Jimmy, Giannis, and Dame. They become immediately, in my opinion, the first, second, or third best team in the Eastern Conference. They still have other pieces to surround those three that can help them win, like Brook Lopez, Andre Jackson Jr., AJ Green. And at this point, if you're looking at it from a Miami Heat lens, I would be thrilled to get this return. And at this point, I'd be happy with any return. And I know I tweeted out when I kind of made some rounds on Twitter that if Bruce Brown and other expiring contracts was the thing that came back to Miami for Butler, I would crash out. I no longer really feel that way because Jimmy's made things so ugly, so difficult, that I am actually just rooting for him to be off of this roster by the deadline, no matter what the Heat actually get in return. And I think I would actually rather maybe take Bradley Beal in first-round picks than keep Jimmy Butler. I know people are going to disagree with that. I've been against that. I don't know if Miami would be willing to do it, but I might start to become willing to do that because that's how annoyed I've become with Jimmy Butler. Chris Middleton and Portis, it could be worse, especially if you get a first-round pick as well. Predict it for me, though. February 6th, trade deadline, 3 p.m. Eastern time. Will Butler be traded before that day and time? Type T if you think he is traded. Type K if you think he is kept. And I kind of just alluded to it just a second ago. I'm down bad. This Jimmy Butler trade saga has worn me down. The Heat are not going to be able to get a very good return for Jimmy Butler. So at this point, I might not be that opposed from taking on Bradley Beal's 3-year deal and no trade clause and to get those 3 first-round picks potentially from Phoenix as well. I might be in because if we're going to be real here, the illusion that Miami wants to remain flexible for the 2026 offseason, it's a farce. It will not happen. Yeah, these free agents that are available in 2026 aren't going to be actually available or sign with the Miami Heat. Are they going to sign 42-year-old LeBron James? Are they going to sign basically 40-year-old Kevin Durant? Probably not, right? You see some of these other players with player options, Damian Lillard, Trae Young, Luka Doncic, but Dame's not going to probably be available. Luka's not going to be available. He's going to extend with LA. Trae Young, is he someone that the Heat are actually going to go after? Because if they wanted Trae Young, they probably could have traded for him last offseason. Fox is not going to be available. He's going to extend with the Spurs. And then you look at the other 4. Are we really going to save all of this flexibility and big money for Jaren Jackson Jr. or Mikal Bridges? Like, is that a needle mover? Like, really, think about this. Is Jaren Jackson Jr., Bam, and Tyler Hero winning a title? No. Is the same duo and Mikal Bridges winning a title? No, it's not. And to me, especially with Jaren Jackson Jr., you have Ware and Bam. So to me, I don't get the absolutely need to have flexibility for 2026 NBA free agency. It doesn't make any sense. You can make the case that it's more likely that the Heat could use that 2027 free agent class as the part where they look for, because Trae Young would then be an unrestricted free agent. Steph Curry's an unrestricted free agent. You have some other guys that are on player options like Giannis, Jokic, D-Mitch, Kat, where those 4 could be needle movers. Now, will they opt out? Probably not. They would likely just extend. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will extend with the Thunder, but he'll put him on there. But you have your own free agent to worry about in Tyler Hero. So to me, this front office has no grip of reality. Like, it doesn't. Even if you take on Beal's contract, which is under contract for Miami, what it would be for the next 2 seasons at $53 and $57 million. I understand how bad that is. But they are not going to sign anyone in free agency. And I know some people might say, well, you want to remain flexible so you can make a trade if a star requests one like Fox did before the deadline next offseason or next year before the trade deadline. I understand that. But the Heat don't have anything to offer. That's the issue. They have 1 first-round pick they can trade. It becomes 2 in the offseason, but still, is 2 first-round picks going to get it done for those players that they're hoping become available? I'm not so sure it is. And this is why this could become very important. Shout out to Wes Goldberg, who does a lot of great work, does the Locked On Heat podcast. He kind of broke it down, saying that it might be worth pointing out that the 3 first-round picks from Phoenix, if you acquired all 3 alongside Bradley Beal, would then unlock the ability for the Heat to trade up to 4 first-round picks this offseason. I know that they probably couldn't acquire a max contract guy if they had Beal, Bam, and Hero under contract. I know that. But having the ability to just up your draft capital would mean so much to this roster in this team. You need to have the capital to strike if a guy becomes available. And heck, I know Tyler Hero's been awesome, but say someone does come available like a Giannis Antetokounmpo, Well, then you can trade. I know people are going to get mad at this. Tyler Hero and 4 first rounders, or up to 4 first rounders, to get a player like that. Like, let's be real here. The Heat aren't going to acquire anyone in free agency, and they're not going to do it via the trade market because they don't have any picks to offer. Taking in Beal and 3 first rounders would give you 4 tradable first-round picks for the future. I know I'm probably not there yet. I just gave you a lot of reasons on why it could be worth it for Miami. I would not do Beal in 3 firsts right now because he does have the worst contract in the NBA because of that no trade clause. But I'm starting to get closer and closer to a point where I would be okay taking back Beal in 3 firsts just to get Jimmy Butler off this roster. I don't want to bring him back after the deadline and then have him opt in the offseason. All right, I'll do it for this episode of the Heat Report. If anything else comes out on Jimmy Butler or Miami, we will have you covered. We're also going to be live on Thursday for trade deadline day. So hit that sub button and join us here at the Heat Report because we have a loaded week of coverage.